And eventually we figured out what we were doing wrong. And now,
Yeah.
like between the two of us, we're working 70 hours a week. We found out we were bringing in about $2,000 worth of produce a week. You get really efficient at using what you have.
I do also have the option of putting on some additional lighting with my LED.
We made a couple of mistakes. We thought, we've got solar. Hey, well, it wasn't free at first. Next year's our 30th year doing it. We haven't had an electric bill. That's paid for.
And then there's the winter greens, like the spring mix and stuff, is over to the right of the tunnel here under these covers. Also. Yeah.
And you guys?
Well,
Or one of them.
yes. So yes, I'm planting inside and outside the tunnel, just
Welcome to our tunnel.
to try to increase the possibilities of success. I have things like the Chinese cabbage inside, of course, and later in the season, as it gets, colder out, they need to be inside more crops. They'll just generally do better as far as presentation at a market and everything.
Yeah.
So we have like a newer spring mix up here planted with those peas and stuff, these very small plants coming up. So once again, inside spring mix, and then the outside spring mix, which is just over here, which we're harvesting from now, and was planted a little bit earlier.
But we know if it goes through another 2 or 3 freezes like we had, it'll be toast.
Continually planting as much as possible, and this year we do have that advantage that it's been very warm.
Yeah.
So seeds are still germinating okay. They're a little leggy there. I do also have the option of putting on some additional lighting with my
yeah,
LED.
right there, I see. Okay.
Some LED lights. Yes, they're like a sort of a pinkish blue color light
Okay, and
that
that's your
plants
strawberries?
respond.
Yes.
Okay.
And day neutral strawberries will produce strawberries, right? As long
yeah,
as
that's a big one.
there's some ripening, yes. As long as there's enough light.
So who are you producing all of this food for?
We do a CSA, and I guess that's our main market. But then we also
the
we
Richmond
do
Farmers
a Richmond.
Market.
Yeah, we do a market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The CSA ends in December.
Yeah, but we've always done the CSA. We've done different markets. We've
Right,
done
but
Richmond,
through the winter,
we've done
the
Ox,
CS
we've
done
done
January
Dayton.
1st. There's no more CSA. It's no longer a market until April.
So you need something to carry you from
So
December
then we
to
do
April.
the Richmond, they do a winter farmers market.
Yeah. Between the two greenhouses, how much do you guys produce?
Well, let's see. I guess I could use, because
I'm on.
I don't keep measurement records,
Okay.
but I do have sales records. And there was this thing at the Richmond Farmers Market that Reed Hospital was sponsoring. We found out we were bringing in about $2,000 worth of produce a week.
Wow. That is awesome.
We are now bringing in more.
More.
Because we didn't have, the summer was pretty rough, so we didn't have as much produce as we've had in the past. But the fall has been pretty fabulous.
Wow.
It's been warm, it's been wet, and all this stuff also likes the shorter days.
Yep.
So it's doing great.
And
We just lost a whole lot of stuff that was doing great outside because it was
It was over.
yeah, they don't do frosts.
Right.
And we've got a whole lot more stuff outside that
Yeah.
we'll be harvesting all winter. And winter is our favorite time to grow.
It is. Why?
Very few pests. I'd say aphids are the main pest we deal with.
And when we started, no one
And
else
deer.
really grew in the winter. I mean, so there was less competition when you bring in a bunch of truckload of things in the winter. Yes, and
You get to
show
be a
people you
hero
can
at
do
the
it.
farmer's market because
It can be
still
done,
hardly
right.
anybody grows in the winter in
Yes.
Ohio.
You guys have supplemental heat in here, or it's purely sun?
This is purely sun right now. But in the winter time, Eugene, last year, don't put solar in December. It doesn't generate anything. And things will be cool this year. We generated a whole lot of excess power, so we have credit with our utility
Okay.
to run with probably paying no for nothing in electric. But last
So
year,
with-
these lights, let's see, we made a couple of mistakes. We
Okay.
thought we've got solar. Hey, well, it wasn't free at first, and we put in these pink lights, ran them all night, which costs a lot of money. And then we had electric space heaters, which he figured out how to deal with them. But for like 2 weeks, we tried to heat this big space. Oh, and our electric bill went up 132%, which makes the solar panels really worth it.
Yes. So
Uh,
with the solar, which we'll
So-
see in a minute, you're able to then add supplemental heat to your greenhouse
Yes.
and do more.
But what Eugene does, we've taken the row covers off so you can see the
Okay.
beautiful peppers, but
Yes.
you put these row covers up over them, and then he'll take a heater and a little piece of conduit
Okay.
and just basically, and maybe a fan even, and just pump heat into these little mini greenhouse things.
Okay.
Because
So it
row
only-
cover will keep heat in. Plastic doesn't.
I-
Plastic is heat transparent, but row cover, because it's a solid,
Right.
actually will keep some heat in.
Okay.
So we could conceivably keep these things going
I guess.
into January, maybe all winter,
Maybe
if
if
it doesn't
we-
get too cold. It would have to stay up at, never get
Might be
below the
able to.
like the mid-20s.
During the day.
Well, at
Probably.
night and
Okay.
stay. But we got a record-setting El Nino, which means it's going to be warm this winter.
Right. So you're really looking forward to that because then you can grow summer-based products in the winter and be able to provide that to your
Right.
customers.
Exactly.
How cool! So you're just adding to
And this
the,
is
the locality of.
right, and this is all experiments with us because we've never been in the had the opportunity.
It changes every year.
Yeah,
I mean, we never
Right.
had. Yeah.
Every year.
Well, the weather changes dramatically, so
That's
we
true.
just don't know.
Chinese cabbage used to never survive the winter, but last 2 winters it survived outside both winters. So I've planted some. Like I was saying, I planted crops inside and outside.
So you're just trying to see what you can grow and what will live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
and just go
clearly
from there.
it's
Yeah.
clearly warmer. It's not necessarily, actually it's more of a duration. So it's not cold long enough to like
Okay.
damage the cabbage
Gotcha.
anymore, right?
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. So I mean, you even have green tomatoes still in here.
And they're ripening. They're fine. They got a. You can see they got a little hit.
Yeah, they're a little wilted.
And then we've got down here, these are Brussels sprouts that we'll harvest in, February, March, April.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've got
Yep.
even,
We've
like,
got
salad down
the
here?
outside
Yep.
ones are about ready.
Basil.
Sprouts.
This made it through 25 degrees, and there's only like 2 plants that got blackened by it.
Wow.
You
and
took the
basil's
covers
very
off.
sensitive.
Yeah, I
It
was
was chilly
usually.
last night, but you took these covers off without, so didn't have covers on last night.
No, I took them off today.
Oh, you did take them off today.
So,
So they had the
Good.
covers on last night.
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And I mean, they still just look beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really.
It's still edible quality, definitely. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you've
And-
even got maybe some heirloom stuff. You got some purple peppers.
We do have some heirloom peppers, but yeah, a lot of peppers are hybridized. Uh-huh.
And over here we've got
They do
yellow
better.
beets.
Yeah, one year we had so much snow, we used the toboggan to put the things on, to crops on, to haul them around from.
Well,
you
and we
know,
were harvesting into coolers
Yes, and we had we
because it
didn't
was
have these.
so cold out there.
We had the movable greenhouses, which we could look at a movable greenhouse that I would put up.
No, these
Nice.
are
Yep.
these are totally movable.
Okay.
We can move
Right.
them anywhere on
Within a
the
few
farm.
hours. Yeah.
Those big hoops there
Oh, and that
are
little
are parts of them.
So those more just like stick in rebar.
Yes.
And then you can drape plastic or something over
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Plastic
and it
shade
contains
cloth.
half of what's in there. So like these 2 beds here we could do with one. So it'd be half of what's in there.
Okay.
And they're a lot lower. Basil would not have survived one of these low tunnels.
I see.
But for
they're single layer plastic. These are 2 layers of plastic, and they have inflators on them to keep air in there between the layers.
And just the additional head space
Yeah.
just means
To be able to harvest.
Yes,
Yeah.
it contains a lot of hot up air up in there overnight, which
Right.
that massive amount of heated air helps keep the frost from forming on your plants underneath, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So when did you guys install these greenhouses?
Okay, that one was through a USDA NRCS EQIP program cost share.
When was that?
Ooh, 8 years ago.
That was like
Oh, wow.
14 or 13, I
Yeah.
think.
It looks great for being that old.
And then this one's, what, 4 years?
Yeah, or 6, I think. Is it
That we
already
paid
5?
out of pocket.
Yeah, we
Okay.
bought one maybe
'Cause
5 years later.
We haven't been able to get
Yeah,
another.
about 18 or so. We put in some.
Yes.
Is it? Let's see,
It was during COVID? No, it was right before
it was
COVID.
Before that, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 18, I think.
Think
17 and
18.
18, I think it was.
So you said
Yeah.
you're not, you haven't been able to be approved for another grant. So what caused you then to do it out of pocket? Was the demand just that high? Did you need more flexibility? What was it that you were
Yeah,
like,
we
we
needed
have to have another one?
we needed another one. We probably need like 10 more of these things.
Okay.
And we had the money to do it. We can't afford them now. They're like $25,000. That was $11,000.
Before COVID.
Yeah, and the
Wow.
one over the first one was 7,500.
Oh my goodness.
8,000
So I
or
mean, you can
so.
just
This
see
one
how
was,
they
yeah,
are
maybe,
marching up in price, and we haven't priced them in 2
was a
years,
little
but it
more.
was like 25,000 for the same tunnel.
Wow. What are you doing to increase your crop share? Because you can't add more greenhouses at this time.
You get really efficient at using what you have. So I mean, they'll have crops cycling through them all winter. You saw there
You have
was
them,
like
succession
you've
planted.
got like
Yeah.
several successions planted of things, and like those peppers will come out. Something will go in. He knows what's going in there.
So what's going
Or,
in after the
yeah.
peppers?
I don't know.
You haven't figured it out yet. But something's going to be planted. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah, it works out usually. I didn't expect the peppers to be there so long, but yeah, we'll let them go. I've been able to squeeze pretty much everything that we need so far into the other areas of the tunnel. So
And we don't have any
yes,
pepper
and-
suddenly. Suddenly.
right, and there's only
Well, everybody
so
throws them
much.
outside.
Yeah, and they're all
Right.
dead.
Yeah.
Now, there's another key thing that sort of controls what we do, which is that there's only 2 of us working.
Okay.
Right? So, I mean, like we've planted like raspberries and been up picking raspberries while on the 4th of July because they're summer bearing raspberries. You can hear the fireworks off in the distance going off, but you got tons of raspberries to pick because you only got 2 people picking them and stuff. So I try not to plant more than what we can reasonably handle.
There's just
Yep.
2 of you.
Right.
And with all due respect,
No, not you.
you guys aren't
Bubbles.
in your 20s.
Right. So yeah, we
how
take
are
that
you-
into account too,
Yeah,
more
so
and more
how-
every year. Yes.
How do you handle that?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of juggling between when things need to go in and what needs to come out in time, and yeah, luckily we've done it for so many years that somehow it's like a second, a first. Intuition kind of comes in, I guess, and I just feel that it's time to start planting now, and then but you always have to be ready to stop when it gets too wet or something too. That's part of farming, As you can see, even since you've been here, like I'll see something that needs to be done, and I'll go over and like, oh, there's something, pick it up, untangle it or something, right?
Yeah.
There's always that, and especially, yes, with limited workers and stuff. We have had workers, and it is nice to have someone to get a lot of it more done. Basically, try to limit, the amount that needs to be harvested also at one time. We'll break it up between days. And Lucy will do a lot of the leaf crops. I do a lot of the more bigger and heavier things, like when the melons and things need to come in, and
Okay.
right.
I think that a lot of young people get very ambitious, and I, myself included, we're like, oh, I'm young, I'm strong, I'm fit, I can do all the things, and I want to plant everything all the time and have all of this.
Right.
You guys, did you do that in the beginning? Did you learn to back off a little bit?
No.
Or have you always said...
No, we've never learned to back off. This is a goal every year. We're going to slash like 25 crops out of the rotation, and then somehow come
Eugene
planting.
comes and plants them anyway.
Then somehow the
seed got
catalog,
ordered.
well, the
Yeah,
seed catalogs come
orders,
in,
yes.
and
They look so pretty.
yes, why that's an interesting description.
Yep.
Show you in there those first peppers in that house. They're like these little. I don't know if you noticed the plants. They had white leaves.
Yeah.
They're variegated, yes.
That sounded so interesting. The peppers are that big.
Yes,
They're
of
thin
course.
walled. They
You gotta
don't
be
taste
careful.
good.
Yeah, really.
And they're kind of weird
New.
looking.
It's like, oh, a new variety. That would be interesting. We got some carrots in here. Yes.
Carrots,
We
okay.
got
Yeah,
some
these are row
compost piles.
covers.
Yes, and yep. We got some carrots, although this one might be a little weedier. And this is the one I left open, isn't it? 'Cause to remind me that, yes,
the
there were
ugly
some weeds
bed.
up here.
It's the ugly.
It's a little bit
It's got
better
the
down there.
weeds in
Yes,
it.
this one is a little weedy. Hey, what's this? This looks suspicious, but it's okay. All right. I was just thinking maybe there's a mole there. But it looks
Don't
okay.
give the dog any ideas.
Look,
He
still
will
looks
dig.
a little fluffy.
Yeah. There's
Carrots are starting to crown, which is good. Yeah. I
So
might
these
just
are
even
rainbow
leave
carrots.
That. Oh, yes, to remind me.
So
This,
there. How many beds of carrots? Like 10 beds of carrots.
Okay.
here.
That we'll be digging through the winter. We do have a hack for doing
Yep.
this in winter. We've
see.
got sheets of this greenhouse plastic because when you have tunnels, you got sheets of greenhouse. And we don't like to throw things out if we can't
The
reuse.
pea
We
fence
try to
blew
reuse
down
as much as possible.
Use what you
Take
have, right?
take one of those old sheets that can't be used on a greenhouse and put it over your beds before it snows or an ice storm, and you can peel that right up and get to everything underneath. If you let these row covers get ice on them, you can't get them up.
Because they're cloth.
Yeah, and they freeze
They
to,
freeze to the ground.
and then they rip, and then
Yeah.
they're no good.
Yeah.
So we learned if you put real plastic over top, end a problem.
Very cool. Well, that's nice. And like you said, you have it laying around, so why not use it? For
Right.
something?
And if you're winter growing, you probably have a greenhouse.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And we also for these lower tunnels that he was explaining, they use the same plastic.
I gotcha. Okay. And there he is. He said he found a problem,
Yeah.
and he's got to go fix it. It looks like he's digging for a mole.
I think this is going to be garlic.
This bed right here will be garlic.
Yeah, we're doing 40 pounds of garlic.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
What was it specifically that made you want to put in solar?
Oh, I'm an old hippie, and my whole family has been on this forever. My brother, I don't know what I would call. My brother's kind of a prepper guy,
Okay.
but he's always been, Lucy, you got to get solar and wind out on your farm. And man, we need to clean these things. He's like, got to get solar and wind. And I don't know if you noticed, there's a little solar array between the tunnels. My brother gave that to us, and we run the fans off
Off
that
solar.
for the tunnels.
Okay.
We would like to run a carbon neutral farm.
Okay.
Huge step here. We're also converting all of our implements over to electric. We have an electric car, but we take our stuff to market in a cargo van
Okay.
that does need to be replaced pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's got issues. And we still have our tiller, which is a walking tractor. It's got a PTO.
Yeah. Okay.
Takes a lot of different things, but that's gas powered, and we just got that thing 3 or 4 years ago, so we're not
That's staying for a while.
replacing it. It did replace a real polluting piece of equipment.
Okay. What was that?
Another walker, BCS walking tractor with a with an Acme engine, which is an old,
That is old.
really dirty engine, oil bath engine.
Yeah.
And when we replaced it, it was like, oh, we should replace this 5 years ago.
Right.
We didn't realize. You don't realize how bad a piece of equipment is until you
Don't
replace,
have it anymore.
or you replace it with something new.
Yeah. So this particular area, this is kind of one of the settled areas on your farm that you were talking about that you don't really grow on.
Right.
So this is your first year of having this here. Do you have plans of growing things or maybe putting chickens back out here or something in this area?
Okay, we have ducks. The ducks have no interest out here,
They
so
don't
we
care.
would like them to do this, but they're like, we have the pond and the backyard, we're happy.
Right.
But if we bring your food out here, would you come out? No, we will just freak out, not eat, and wonder why you're being mean to us. So,
What was the process like putting this in? Was it easy? Was it difficult? How long did it take?
it was rather difficult.
Okay, why?
Getting permits to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, county didn't want, we were supposed to get something that was a third again bigger than this.
So even though it's not big, like you have two panels that are what? 100 feet
70, it's 70 feet
70 feet
long, and it takes up about 45 feet this way, yeah.
And each
So-
one's 12 kilowatts.
So you had a hard time getting a permit for this.
Yeah.
What was their
They'd be noisy. They'd pollute all over the place. They'd be emitting stuff. And it's our neighbors to the north
That'd be an eyesore.
objected. Be an eyesore.
Now wait a minute, the eyesore. There are trees all the way around here. I can't see anybody.
No, you can't see their back here.
And I
right.
think they're kind of good looking.
I didn't even know they were here when we pulled up. So you had a hard time getting a permit. And
Yes.
You had some hiccups with the contractor. What other difficulties did you have getting this put in?
Not really. Little bit of weather issues because
Okay.
they came and did this in October
So really,
and
it
November.
doesn't-
This was still going in at this point in time. Last year, if you'd come out and done this interview, and we were interviewed while this was going in, you could have talked to the contractors because they were still very much out here. And they're like, okay, and then they measured from here to our barn, and it's like it's under 200 feet because cable's really expensive. It's like all copper, and it's like
Well,
Yeah.
it's like that big around, and it's under
Well-
here.
Underground.
Yeah, because it's connecting all of.
Right.
metal's gone up a lot, and copper's very expensive.
Yeah.
So it is all copper. Yeah.
I mean, I can show you movies of them making the cables out here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just had all these rolls of wire on a gang, like 35 rolls of wire looked like
Wow.
shells. And they're just, some teenager guy who's the apprentice is making, he's like at the hole where it's going in, and Ron, the electrician, is rolling it out. And, oh, and then the third guy had to show up. That's right, because they hit, I don't know what they hit out here, but they hit something, probably a boulder. That's right, and that stopped everything for like 8 hours. Well, they're like, we need a workaround somewhere, and we don't have room for this. And but this is we're walking the cable.
There were a lot of boulders in here. But this
Oh,
is
yeah.
the headwaters of the creek. Right here. Right out our back door of the store.
And
yes.
then it goes,
Our packing shed, yes.
and then
right
it
here.
all goes
Okay.
in here.
There we
And
go.
then,
And then you come, and here's the inverters over here, yes.
then we could take her inside the garage
Good.
where,
It's
what-
pretty boring wire, but
yeah, it's just a bunch of wires that go into.
Into here.
And so in each of these things, I watched him wrap, each one of these boxes has like 4 miles of wire. Or no, yeah, 4 miles of wire, and he's like, that translates into like 200 feet of cable that's this big around that he somehow
Wow.
got into each box.
Wow.
And so what we do with
I don't
this
hear
is,
any sound coming from
You
you.
don't hear anything?
no,
Let's see
they're
if I
total-
hear something. No. Even with my mom ears. I swear I can hear everything. Yeah.
That's not picking up anything.
Yeah. That's
But they
crazy.
said, okay,
Quiet.
we wanted a bigger system. This is 24 kilowatt.
Okay.
We wanted a 36. And
You can see.
our neighbors said too big. it would be too noisy and too big. And yeah, apparently we would get a different set of inverters
Okay.
that probably would hum.
Okay.
And then our thing up there on the pole,
Right.
yeah, they'd have to put an industrial one in, which at our cost, which actually Solar's Freedom said no, they would pay for that.
Wow.
Because
There was some, yeah, whether we would or they would, yeah.
Now, if noise is a concern, I gotta say that highway is a heck of a lot louder than any kind of hum you
Yeah.
would hear in your house.
right,
I mean,
yeah, I mean road noise is so loud.
it is very loud right here, and we're in the Midwest, and there's a lot of corn and soybeans around here. So I mean, noise just travels
Right.
so easily anyway.
Yeah, I think
So
I
this
think
says-
This shows that, see, we're making more than what we're using. It's going to left, these little arrows at
And
the
it's gone.
bottom, these little
Okay.
dashes. So we're making more than we're
okay,
using.
that number
Now,
is
if it
how
were to
much
get-
they've delivered to us.
Yeah, if it were to get cloudy, then you'd
And then the
see
big
these
number is generated.
dashes slow down and start going
Since-
the other way if we started using power.
I know. One of these days, I'm going to turn that building on. It's got an electric,
I was going
really,
to say, you could turn the electric
really
furnace on and
inefficient
see it,
electric
yes, see it
furnace.
slow down.
Okay.
And there's no. The guy we bought this from claimed there was insulation in this building. No,
Well, there is, but
well, very little.
it's- yeah,
Paper thin.
it's-
The solar conversation can be hard to get around sometimes. But for you guys on 9 acres, where you're going to be making a lot of money off of it, and granted, we're still in the first year, so you haven't
Yeah.
exactly seen your payout yet, but it's been beneficial to you.
Yeah, I mean, we paid $300 a month for the mortgage on the solar arrays, and our electric bill is about $450. It's already paying for
so we're paying
itself.
yes.
For that than you
yeah.
were for your electric
Yeah.
bill. And now you're getting paid for the electric
Right.
bill.
And we're getting, we'll get paid
Yeah.
some, yes, in the end of the year.
And the way solar works in Ohio, this is very different from state to state, but
Okay.
that meter is called a net meter. So it can tell you what you're going to net between what you're using from AES and what you're making. Hopefully, when it's all said and done, we've made a lot more than we use, and then they send us a check. A lot of states do this, not all states do. We cannot go off the grid. If the power goes out, this thing goes off, and it's automatic, and we can't turn it back on either until the power goes on, because we're hooked up to the system, and if we turn it on, that's high voltage going right into the system, and there could be a lineman 10 miles up the road gets killed.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting point. So
Yeah.
you have solar, but you aren't off grid.
Right. And so, but we don't need batteries because AES acts as our battery. So we have power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, and it's not legal to disconnect from the grid. We can't just cut the wire at the pole and go, we're offline. We will not shock a lineman.
Right.
We're cool. Ohio will not allow that. That's illegal. There's now lobbying being done in the state house. I've read about and seen a little bit on TV that's trying to change this.
Okay.
And
So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But if there is any advice that you can give to somebody specifically on the solar side, one piece of advice, if they're like, I really want to try that out, what is the one piece of advice that you would have for someone who wants to do solar?
do not start a project in the spring. These things take about 9 months to put in
Okay.
because there's just a whole lot of permits. You have to deal with the state, the county.
Wow.
We had to deal with township. And so there's a whole lot of behind the scenes work that your contractor's going to be doing. And electric company. And electric companies right now are very slow to give permits. So we put this thing in, started it in February. It was finished just about a year ago. And then we waited until December 11th to get the final permission to throw the switch on. We actually had, this whole thing was up and runnable, and we had to keep it off
Wow.
because we didn't have permissions from the state or the utilities.
So don't start it in the spring, and maybe be prepared for
Like
it to take a really long time.
Right, start your talks with whoever's going to put it in. Oh, and use professionals unless you are an industrial electrician,
Don't do it
because
yourself.
this is high voltage stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
24 kilowatts of direct power is going into those inverters. If that came loose anywhere, we're dead.
Yeah.
You don't.
There is no ouchie. It's
Yeah.
just done.
Yeah, you just fry.
Yeah. Very interesting.
You
Okay.
wouldn't even know it hit you. So if you start one of these projects, I'd say start it in about October, September, because you're just going to talk about stuff. They'll do site visits.
Gotcha.
And then hopefully they're putting the hardware in like April.
Okay.
As soon as the snows melt, they're getting in. We got ground mounts. Most people would get them on their roofs, even on farms, unless the farm, if the farm's going commercial solar, what we're doing is home solar.
Right.
Just it's a system that's borderline. It's
Okay.
almost commercial. And yeah, I didn't show you, we did plant squash under them.
Yeah, we
And
talked
actually, I
about
want
that.
to talk a little bit about that. It's called agrovoltaics.
Let's go look and talk about it.
And agrovoltaics is farming under and around ground mounts.
Okay.
And you can't, most of the solar farms that are being set up aren't set up to do this.
So you put
But-
squash under here.
Yeah, and it's dead, but
Well,
it did, and we put it in way too late for it to do anything.
okay.
But-
and you've got compost under here, it looks like.
Yeah, so Eugene he tilled and put a lot of compost down, and you really can't, you're really fading fast.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah. There's some. It's just late in the season.
But the vines got pretty big. Yeah, there's one.
Yeah,
There's vine.
Yeah.
They seem to do better the more going this way.
Okay.
So, and they've done a lot of we're thinking lettuce would do great under here.
Oh,
broccoli.
yeah.
And then I'm looking at this going, if we could make plastic curtains to turn these into little greenhouses.
So
and then
there's so much
I'm
more you could
wondering
use.
if you could put little inverters out here so you could run heaters and stuff off of these.
Ooh.
They've done not a lot of research, but University of Minnesota's been doing it for like 4 years.
Okay.
Or I guess they've got a solar farm
Okay.
and they found you have to keep the arrays further apart for livestock.
That makes sense. And you probably could put them higher up.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So I mean,
and
this
I think
is like
if you
3
made
foot.
these
but-
much more robust,
Yeah.
you probably could do cattle.
yeah. Oh, even. Yeah.
As long as they're not good. I could just see them seeing these things. just
Yeah,
going,
scratching
just
posts.
rub right there.
Right. Is that there are many opportunities to add to your solar, mini greenhouses, chickens, extra things planted underneath it. And maybe it's not all bad from what we hear,
And it
you
would-
know?
You do have to do some planning.
Yeah. Like
But-
anything, any project
yeah.
needs planning. And with any project, you're going to run into hiccups. And there are things that maybe you'll be disappointed on. But it seems like it's been really beneficial for you guys.
Yeah, the December, January electric bills, and we thought, we're running solar. Well, last December was the cloudiest on record. So that thing was always running backwards, except for like one day where we got a half day of sun and then it ran forwards. And we're like, okay, it will work. And then, and there's I'll say you're down to 7.5 hour days. So there's just no sun period.
Right.
And then in February, things started changing.
Okay.
And our bills started going way down. That was the first sign. It's like, whoa, there's like $100 shaved off of this. And then it was April. So we went live December, and it was April when we paid nothing.
That's awesome.
And I don't expect us to ever have another electric bill again.
Very cool. I'm glad that the solar has been beneficial for you guys and that you like it. As we get ready to kind of end it here, if somebody wants to know more about your farm, if they have questions about solar, if they want to purchase some of your vegetables, where can they find you at?
I'm on Facebook. I'm Boulder Belt. Might be Boulder Belt Farm.
Eco, I think.
Yeah, Boulder Belt Eco. And we have a website, boulderbelt.com.
Very cool.
Oh yeah, and then Richmond Farmers Market
They can always stop and see you?
every Saturday morning, 9 to noon. Wintertime, it's at the Star Jeanette Building. Summertime, Elstro Plaza.
Okay. So again, Lucy, thank you so very much for letting me come out here today. So cool just to see the solar, especially on a small scale. And I just wish you guys such great success. And maybe we can come out and ask you here in a year or so and just see how those things are holding up for you.
Be fun.
Yeah, it would.
It's